were simply going to be sucked into the mud and drowned. I'm going to read you a passage from a soldier who fought here, just to give you an idea. It's his personal experience. I paused a moment in a shell hole. In a few seconds, I felt myself sinking, and struggle as I might, I was sucked down until I was firmly gripped around the waist and still being dragged in. The leg of a corpse was sticking out of the side, and frantically I grabbed it. It wrenched off, and casting it down, I pulled in a couple of rifles and yelled to troops in the gun pit to throw me more. Laying them flat, I wriggled over them and dropped half dead into the wrecked gun position. Those are the conditions in which our soldiers fought. This particular graveyard is represented, you'll notice several bunkers in here. The Germans controlled this high ground, and at great cost, the 3rd Australian Division seized this area, which was the launching off point for the Canadian Corps. When King George V came to visit this battlefield at the end of the war, they were destroying the remnants of war. The pillboxes were being removed. He stood on top of this pillbox and, looking out over the sacrifice of the battlefield, said that, no, we'll leave this one here. This is where the cross of sacrifice goes. They earn it. From the English Channel on a clear day, with binoculars, you can see this cross of sacrifice as you come over to Dunkirk. The Canadians did not want to go to Passchendaele. C'était presque la première fois que le général Curry a essayé de refuser une commande, parce qu'il a réalisé que cette bataille est un renforcement d'échoué, a reinforcement of failure. But the Canadian government directed him to proceed, and he insisted that he have time to prepare. The Canadians had not been back here since the summer of 1916, and they couldn't believe the change of this area. They could hear the guns and feel the ground shaking 40 miles away. 25 miles away, they could smell it. In these fields out here, there were probably 50 or 60,000 unburied bodies rotting or being eaten by rats. And that's the ground over which they walked, all of it under cover of artillery fire. The Canadians launched into their assault. From here, 4th Division struck off in the direction of Crest Farm, and across this little valley, the 3rd Canadian Division launched its attack. They advanced about 600 yards in the space of 3 days. They were replaced by the 1st and 2nd Canadian Division, who advanced up to the crest and seized the high ground, which you'll see from Crest Farm, the 72nd 87th Battalion taking Crest Farm itself. And then finally, in a final assault on the 10th and 11th of November, the town of Passchendaele itself was taken. The cost to the Canadians between the 26th of October and the 10th of November was 16,000 Canadian casualties, 5,000 of them killed. After that, the Canadians left Ypres and never came back. And the final irony of this, with all of this sacrifice, is in the great German March offensive of 1918, all of this ground, won by the blood of British, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand soldiers, was given back up without a shot to straighten up the line. The Battle of Passchendaele is an extraordinary example of individual and personal courage. 59 quads Victoria ont été gagnés ici dans cette bataille entre juin et novembre. 8 de ces quads Victoria étaient gagnés par les Canadiens. George Perks won his just over there on that high ground over by that house, leading his company to move forward and get through wire. Sergeant Mullen of the PPCLI won his in the low ground just over here, assaulting bunkers. In a moment, we're going to go and visit a Canadian soldier who won the Victoria Cross, who's buried just over here in this graveyard, and Mr. Smith will make a few words about him He won his just up behind us a little ways. Il faut rappeler le sacrifice qu'on a fait ici. Nous avons acheté une portion d'ici de Flandre avec notre sang. We bought a little bit of this ground with our blood. It is a sacred place. It is also, for soldiers, a caution about what happens when battles are attempted without effective planning, without effective reconnaissance, and when soldiers are demanded to do things that they almost cannot do, and yet they try. The Canadian soldier here fought and died. He gave his best. He advanced.